I heard the news today, oh boy. Geoff Emerick, the Beatles recording engineer, has passed away. He was 72 years old. And I can't say I know a lot about Geoff Emerick, but what I do know comes from his book that came out in 2006, Here, There, and Everywhere. It's a great book. Actually, probably the best book I ever read about the Beatles. But it's basically his autobiography, and he has an amazing story to tell. Because Geoff Emerick arrives at Abbey Road a week before the Beatles were there to do their first audition for George Martin. And good timing, right? So it turns out he was present at their audition. He sees the whole thing happening, and he winds up getting a job as an apprentice, or nowadays we would call that an intern. So he was the Beatles had a recording engineer at this point when they got the gig. His name was Norman Smith, and Norman was there from the beginning right up through Rubber Soul. And then when Rubber Soul sessions are winding down, he tells George Martin that, hey, I want to try producing, and I want to, can I produce and continue to engineer the Beatles? And George Martin says, I don't think so. You got to choose one or the other. I mean, you got a great gig. You're doing engineering for the Beatles. He's like, I don't know. I got this band. They're called Pink Floyd. Maybe I'll take my chances with them. Anyway, so Norman leaves. So now George Martin's stuck with the idea, I got to get another engineer. And he tells the Beatles that Norman's out. Norman Smith, the engineer, is his history. And they say, well, let's just use this kid, Geoff. And they're like, and George Martin says, Geoff, he's 18 years old. He's a kid. He doesn't know anything about engineering. And the Beatles say, no, we like him. We're comfortable around him. He's good. He's really good. We like him. George Martin's like, okay, I'll go with him. Right? So he gets the gig. And he continued with the Beatles right up through the end. I think there was a little interruption during the White Album, but pretty much from Revolver to the end, this guy, Geoff Emerick, was there for the whole shebang. And it's a great read if you're a Beatles fan. So, and he also worked after the Beatles. That was a long time ago. He did some of Paul McCartney's records, and he also engineered Elvis Costello's record, Imperial Bedroom, and I think some other stuff for Elvis, but Elvis writes the foreword for this book. Anyway, he seemed like a great guy. I was trying to interview him when the book came out. The book came out in 2006, and I was trying to get to do an interview with him for Stereophile, and I got the runaround by the publicist from the book company, and about a year or so later, I saw him being interviewed live at an AES convention. And the interviewer was really struggling because Geoff Emerick is not an outgoing guy. He's not talkative. And so the interviewer had to do most of the talking. So turns out, I guess it worked out that I didn't get the interview because it would have been a really tough road. But it would have been cool to be in a room face-to-face with Geoff Emerick. Anyway, it's not about me. It's really about Geoff. And he seemed like a really sweet guy. And he has great stories in the book. I highly recommend the book if you're a Beatles fan and you know anything about engineering. He takes you inside it a lot. And that's it. So, Geoff, I miss you. You did some great work, and you will be missed.